All right, welcome along to Team 33. I'm Raf Diallo. So this week I'm speaking to Marcus Maher. So he's a friend of mine. He's done our documentary on Iceland back before Euro 2016, but also more importantly, in reference to this piece, he's a resident of Barcelona, and we wanted to chat a little bit about Espanyol and the place it fits in the city as the second club. And Marcus, first, welcome along. Hope you're doing well.
Very good to hear from you, Raf.
Yeah, now I did want to start off maybe on the idea of Barcelona being a football city, or whether it is or not. And obviously it's a great cultural centre, it's the capital of Catalonia, and obviously FC Barcelona are kind of the one of the main tourist hotspots there. But as a football city, I mean, on a big Champions League match week, as we're going to have this week, do you get a sense of football being an important part of what's going on in the city?
Yeah, I mean, I think in Barcelona, you know, it's emblematic of football, really. It's a city that I think outside of Madrid, it's really the number one city for football in Spain. I mean, when you look at Spain, generally, you've only got really two big clubs, and that's a pity for La Liga because you've got Madrid and you've got Barcelona. So come match day, you know, here on Saturdays, Sundays, and also with Champions League, the city's buzzing. It's got a lot of people coming in from outside in the Catalonia region, and also from afar, just to see Barcelona play. Really, it's kind of more of an event as more than a tourist event. You know, watching the football, watch the team play, and get a feel of the city. But obviously, coming to see the great Camp Nou as well, the stadium that they play in. You know.
Yeah. Now, obviously, you've just mentioned Barcelona repeatedly there. Now, there is another club in the city, as we referenced at the top, called Espanyol de Barcelona. They're based out in Cornellà. In your time living in the city, and you've lived there for a few years now, have you ever got a sense of Espanyol's place in the city, or is it kind of almost they're forgotten about?
No, it's a good question again. I mean, where Espanyol used to play in an area called Montuc, which is a little sort of mountainous area just actually inside the city. It's kind of a province just next to Sants, which is the big train station there. And that's where they played formerly for many, many years until they moved to an area, as you say, in the Cornellà district, which is kind of very much out on the outskirts, very much out in the sticks of Barcelona. It's kind of juxtaposed between the city and obviously the provincial areas, Sant Boi and Llobregat and Hospitalet, all these little new areas that were built around in the 1950s and 60s. And yeah, you do get a feeling when you go over to Espanyol Stadium. It really is very much. I mean, it's actually on an autopista, which they say, on a highway here. Yeah. So when you drive in to Barcelona, you can actually see the stadium, and it does feel like it's the forgotten, the forgotten son of Barcelona football. You know.
Yeah, would you even see Espanyol jerseys on the streets in Barcelona city centre, or is that something that's almost alien? And you're more likely to see, obviously, you're going to see Barcelona jerseys, but are you even more likely to see maybe an Atletico jersey or a foreign club?
Yeah, in the sense, if you go down Las Ramblas, I mean, you'll see Madrid, you'll see, ironically, I mean, if you walk down Manchester High Street with a Liverpool shirt, I'm sure, there'll be a few questions raised, but because Barcelona really is an international city, it's very cosmopolitan, and the people who do go down these touristic areas with Madrid or people don't bat an eyelid. But if you went to the St. Boi district, the Cornellà Hospitalet area with a rival shirt, I think you'd be a bit of a different reaction, you know.
Yeah, there's a few things that have been said about Cornellà as well. That district that's just kind of about 10 kilometres outside Barcelona, and it was in a piece in El Nacional, which is like a Catalan national paper. I actually you read it over the weekend, obviously, and I had a look at it as well. It's in Spanish, but also there's a Catalan version of that piece. Essentially, the point was being made. Yeah, the point was being made that Cornellà, and this is the opinion of the writer, is almost a bastion of anti-Catalanism. It's more of a place where people, they're not willing to integrate into Catalan culture, learn the language, and it's almost an island within a growing and more overtly political sea. I don't know, obviously you've got to know Barcelona a little bit at this point. What did you make of that piece, and what do you think is the real reality there?
I think the journalista or the periodista, he's quite a famous in El Nacional, and it touched on some things that I think most Barcelona people know already. It's an immigrant area. It's been built over by outsiders since the fall of Franco in the early 70s. And it does feel like a separate place in a way in terms of its homogenization. It's very much full of Spanish speakers, and that includes people from South America and China and all these other new immigrants who have moved into the city, into that Cornellà area. And you do feel that, here is an area that's very much, again, as touching on the football spot, that's cut off, that's kind of an adrift from the I guess the metropolitan centre of Barcelona, i.e. being Barcelona Football Club. But Barcelona Football Club itself is not exactly in the centre as you would expect a football club to be. It's actually in the Col Blanc area, which isn't that far away from the area of Hospitalet and Cornellà, ironically. But you do feel when you go down there, you do feel it is it's kind of an island in of itself, as you said. That really is very much of the city, but not in the city. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and ironically, obviously, Espanyol carry a name that, when you translate it into Spanish or Catalan, it obviously means Spain. In terms of its history, that actual name, it wasn't so much an anti-Catalan thing, it was more an anti-foreign thing when you actually look back at when the club was founded. So that wasn't the issue. But obviously the club, as the years have gone on, has been, in contrast to Barcelona, who are much more open in terms of supporting Catalan nationalism. Espanyol, it's a bit more murky, and maybe there's a hint, maybe some people claim that they
call them Los Budgeterias, which means like the little budgies, I mean, when you look at the size of Barcelona compared to Espanyol, it really is David and Goliath stuff, it's I think it kind of wears that kind of badge with pride, because Barcelona is a name that really is international. It's not just in Spain, but all over the world. I mean, every football player, especially from the hotter climates, they want to play for Barcelona. So it really does, feel like it's forever in the shadow of Barcelona. And in a way, I don't think the people around that area are really that bothered about what Barcelona does, as long as Espanyol is still ticking along as a football team and still, bringing in people from that area into watching, because they've got a good crowd, especially in this new stadium. If you go into the new stadium over by Sant Boi, it really is impressive. I mean, the old stadium, it's a bit like San Mamés in Bilbao. It wasn't, fit for the 21st century. So, and they had to move over to this new area. Where they built a lot of things around it, new shopping centre, new restaurants and everything. And ironically, Raf, the first team that played in the new stadium over in Sant Boi was actually Liverpool, and we lost 3-0. Yeah. And actually, I believe it was Luis Garcia that scored a couple of goals as well. So it's quite ironic,
Yeah, and on the political kind of phase, obviously you've seen some of the protests that have happened over the last while, over the last year or so, in regards to Catalan nationalism, and then the crackdown from the central government and everything that's happened there. Obviously, there's no need to kind of get into all of that, because we'd be here all day if we were chatting about it. But there's the Espanyol angle of this. Obviously, as I kind of touched on a little bit, Barcelona are linked into Catalan nationalism quite overtly throughout their history. Espanyol, obviously, they've had royal patronage for the guts of a century now, and I suppose the stereotype, maybe for want of a better word, is that they're more tied into the central government, and central Spain, Castilla, etc., etc. I might just read you just a line from the former CEO of the club, so that's Juan Collet, about like the place that Espanyol finds itself in regards to the whole Catalan thing. And he says, "I'm from a town, and the Espanyol supporters in my town, like in many others, are Catalans. We speak Catalan and we live in Catalan. We are from this land. I grew up hearing that Espanyol is a fascist team, a military team, a team followed by immigrants who had arrived from the rest of Spain, and I couldn't understand it. The Espanyol that I had lived, the one that I knew, wasn't the one that they were describing." And it's a very interesting point, because you see that actually written in many places, that whereas they're stereotyped as being anti-Catalan nationalism, most of them actually, are Catalan speakers, and they obviously consider themselves as from there.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I mean, I mean, the truth is somewhere in the middle, probably. You know, they've attracted a lot of people around the Saint Boy area, Hospitalet area, which will probably be, you know, grow up around the Espanyol club. In terms of what that guy said, in terms of the identity thing, I mean, listen, you know, 70% of the people here can a Catalan-born can speak Catalan and Spanish as a dual language. So the idea that they've always been you know, excluded from Catalan society, to me is a little bit. It's not exactly what I've observed here, because I've met enough Espanyol supporters that can speak both languages. So I think this again, Raf, I mean, I don't want to sort of touch on the media, but it's kind of more of a media construct than a realistic construct, you know?
Yeah. And obviously the club, it's, as we said, the second club in the city, and I think I have a couple of stats here. Their average attendance is 17,000, which obviously is dwarfed by Barcelona's 66,000 for last season. That kind of puts them 12th in La Liga, so they're in decent company. But in terms of their clout, they're much smaller. I've seen a few comparisons being made to things like Everton, obviously in Liverpool, and other kind of what are considered second clubs. But I don't think it's quite the exact same. I mean, Liverpool are a global club, but Everton have that's obviously your city, but Everton have a very strong history, and they're a big club as well.
They're older than Liverpool, you know. So
yeah, it's not a direct comparison.
Yeah, I mean, if we look at, I mean the great you did the thing on Patrick O'Connell, you know.
Yeah.
Barcelona nearly went under, you know, back during the time of Franco. So it's not as if Barcelona have always dominated the Catalan landscape, you know. Espanyol has always been there. It's just that over the last 20, 30 years, with the success of Barcelona, you're going to get this more attention, more new fans, more people flocking to the club. I mean, if Espanyol had the success that Barcelona had over the last 20, 30 years, I think, you know, we could be having a different conversation here, you know. Espanyol has got just as an august history as Barcelona. Maybe Barcelona's history now is probably more known by many people because of that success. But in terms of its identity, I think Espanyol is very much endemic in Barcelona. But the problem is with the media, you know, focusing on Madrid and Barcelona. These are the little clubs really don't get a look in today, you know.
Yeah, because even I know there are a few Espanyol fans who find it a little bit kind of grating, I guess, that in even the papers in Barcelona, so the local papers, the bigger papers in Catalonia, the sports papers, generally they sometimes even feature, apparently, now this might be more just kind of a slight bitterness, but behind the Barcelona B team in terms of the pages that they appear on.
They do. I mean, if you go onto La Vanguardia, if you go onto the sort of local Alaskan Sports, I mean, you find just the first 6, 7 pages, 8 pages even dedicated to Barcelona, and then you'll have 2 pages of Madrid, actually, in front of Espanyol. And I mean, if I was an Espanyol fan, I would find that pretty grating as well, you know. I mean, it doesn't seem to be fair, but that's the nature of football today, you know.
Yeah, and it's not like they haven't succeeded at some level. I mean, they're kind of they always kind of oscillate between mid-table. They've nearly always been in La Liga throughout their history. They've 4 Copa del Reys, which is more than some other clubs in La Liga, which isn't too bad. Yeah. And given that they're sharing a city with one of the 3 biggest clubs in the world, it's not too bad at all. But I guess before I let you go, Marcus, obviously you're a filmmaker as well. You did a documentary, although not in film form, when you spoke to Eidur Gudjonsson, who is obviously ironically a former Barcelona player, his father, ahead of Euro 2016. Just a quick word, you've a new film coming out?
Yeah, I mean, as you know, some of my films are, well, the film that I've just made is quite political. It's set around the housing crisis and the repossession banking crisis as well. It's a short film I've made called The Siege of Botha Anam. I'm hoping to have that enter to a few festivals, and obviously the Dublin International Film Festival next year. It's set around what's going on in Dublin at the moment, you know, and I'm hoping that, you know, it'll get a little bit of attention. I mean, this aside, Raf, you know, I mean, I love my sport as much as I love my film, you know, and who knows, maybe I'll make that Patrick O'Connell film one day, you know.
It's been done. But anyway,
done it, okay. But maybe I'll get Colin Farrell to play Patrick O'Connell. You know.
Yeah. Well.
But yeah, I mean, I'm hoping to make that. I'm making a trilogy of films that reflect Irish society. Although I'm born in Liverpool, I'm an Irishman, but. You know, and I'm hoping this film will you know, it's not going to be, it's going to be very uncomfortable viewing for some people because it's very much shot in a very social documentary style with a good cinematographer, one of Frank Berry's cinematographers, Colin Mullen. So, and I've got a great cast with with Jerry Grimes and Wayne O'Brien and a few others. So, yeah, I mean, that I'm working on that as well, which is always nice to hear from you talking because I'm living here in Catalonia as well, and it's great to follow the football back home and you know, with Liverpool tonight, but also with what you guys are doing on off the ball as well, which is always great, you know.
All right, good stuff, Marcus. Anyway, thanks a million for your time. I know you have to dash off, so thanks a million for joining me, and obviously we'll be chatting at some point soon anyway. Cheers.
Yeah, cheers, Raf. Speak to you soon.
Good stuff.